So a huge mazel tov. You have earned this beautiful painting from watercolor painting from Esther Rosen. And next time everybody goes to her house for Shabbos, you can give her a huge compliment on her gorgeous, gorgeous art. Tonight, Baruch Hashem, we have the great zchus of having a renowned and senior, incredible Kala teacher who actually one time, I don't think you remember this, but one time we met in 770 and you were telling me about being a Kala teacher and I was already in the training and you gave me that chizuk to continue. So you probably don't remember it, but I do. So, oh, beautiful.
I should remember it was you, but I remember talking to somebody. So
yes,
it was you.
yes.
I was telling you what a great thing you're doing.
Thank you. So if you'd like, this clips on your shirt. I'm gonna put it right here.
Okay.
It should be all set.
Matches. I was thinking, should I wear like a nice necklace? But I decided too many. You don't know what's going on in my house, Baruch Hashem. But I know when you do good things that I like to help out. So that's great. So my name is Henya Laine, and very honored to be here. I think what Miriam does is beyond incredible, and I'm very proud of her. So I'm happy to come along and help. And if you don't mind, Miriam, if you want to pass around a paper, and everybody should write down their names and their mother's names, because when I go to the I like to tell the Rebbe what I've done. And the reason I do that, okay, I'll start with this, is because when I was a little girl, I was like 12 years old. The Rebbe had spoken about having Mesilas Shabbos. And my mother came home from New York and she said, Mesilas Shabbos, okay, my daughters are going to start Mesilas Shabbos. So my mother's policy was that everybody came to our house so she could see what's going on, see who the friends are, you know. And so nobody was up to par to our kashrus. So she didn't want to make sure we were all okay. So I had a group of girls. I think my room was the dining room. My sister had the living room. One had the bedroom. We used to walk around, collect the little girls, and do Mesilas Shabbos with them. Anyway, I came to the Rebbe. My parents wanted us to be Hasidim, and we lived in Cleveland. So every year they would take, depending on how much money it would cost, one or two of their children with them. So this was my turn to go with my mother, and we come to New York. We're here for Simchas Torah for the last few days of Sukkot, and we go to Yechidus because everybody out of town was going to Yechidus. And my mother says, "Okay, you have to know my mother, so you'll understand what I'm saying." Her name was Rebbetzin Kazin. By the way, the book is coming out. It's called the Queen of Cleveland. It's coming out in about 2 months. It's on the way because the Rebbe called her the Queen of Cleveland. My father passed by for dollars, and the Rebbe said, "Is your wife here?" And my father said, "No, she's in Cleveland." So the Rebbe said, "Here is $1 for the Queen of Cleveland." So we're calling her the Queen of Cleveland. Yes, yes. Because my children said, "Why the Queen of Cleveland? She's been to Russia. She wasn't here. She was there in Paris." And I said, "That's the name the Rebbe gave her, so that's the name I'm going to call her." It's a shame. It's a great book. So anyway, so my mother said to me, "Okay, when the Rebbe talks to you, you answer. And then when he finishes, I'm going to go like this, like this, and you leave." I'm like, okay. So the Rebbe asked me a few questions about what I was learning, and I answered. I'm like, thank God, Baruch Hashem, I listened to my teacher, to my mora. We used to call the mora. Okay. Oh boy, it's great. So I go out and Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I did well. And about 20 minutes later, my mother walks out. She had all these private things to talk to the Rebbe. And she goes, "The Rebbe wants to see you." I'm like, "Ma, I was just there. I just spoke to the Rebbe. The Rebbe wants to see you. Go right now." So there I am, 12 years old. I was a little bit shy, believe it or not, I was. And I walked in, and thank God the Rebbe's head was like he was looking on the table. And then as I came closer, we've been to the Yechidus room. So right before the desk, you kind of stop. So when I stopped, the Rebbe looked up and he said, "Your mother tells me that you have a Mesilas Shabbos group. So tell me about it." So I'm like, it's nothing. What do you want a 12-year-old to say? I said, well, we just, all the kids go to public school. Never, they were all Holocaust survivors. They sent all their kids to public school. It was really sad. So we go to their houses, we pick them up, we bring them to our house, we say a bracha, mitzvah masiyas, let's do a mitzvah right away. We say a bracha, we tell them a story from the only thing that that was in those days, talks and tales. We tell them a story from the talks and tales. We sing songs, we dance, we say bracha achrona, and we bring them back home. All of a sudden, the Rebbe's face lit up. I could just see it now, and it lit up, and he made this little girl like 10 feet tall. And he said, wow, like what I was doing was so great. I don't remember the wording. I was just, oh my, it was like a nothing. And all of a sudden it's such a big deal. And the Rebbe gave so many brachas and it was just incredible. And then the Rebbe stopped and he looked at me and he said, in the future, I shouldn't have to ask you what you do. You should tell me. So B'chayev of the Rebbe, I could tell him, but now I write to the Ohel. When I go there, I'll say, I've spoken to this and this group, and Abisha should give you bracha. So that's why whenever I go, if any of the girls there want to add their names, anybody listening, want to add your name and your mother's name, put it on the chat, and we'll be happy to do that. So Mitzvah Hashem, I always write Mazala Gavoya. I forgot what I write. I write something good.
Great.
And I listen to the Rebbe. Yes. Okay. So I was asked to speak a little bit about the wedding of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. You've read a lot of things. I'm looking at the history of Yudalit Kislev, what's written here, but I have a little bit that I'm going to say before it. It's important to say B'Shem Omra, maybe Gula Lo'ilam. So I want to tell you that I get all my material from Chabad.org, Baruch Hashem. My brother YY Kaysen, whose yard said was yesterday, is the one that started Chabad.org, and it's a schus for him. So I listened to many people, but this time it was Rebbe Partiel, who gave a beautiful talk on Yud Dalet Kislev, which is tonight, tomorrow. So really, when I tell this story, I've married off Baruch Hashem 8 children. So I know what it's like to go and to walk your children to the chuppah. And every time I think of the Rebbe's parents who were not given that privilege because of the Yamach Shmoinikis, would torture them not to allow them to do it, it just breaks my heart. But the good thing about it is that we had such a Halakha Rebbe and such a wonderful Rebbetzin, and they did so much for us that without them, ladies, you think you wouldn't be here? We wouldn't be here. We would not be here. Really, the Rebbe kept all of us a cut above, like not only from and not only Chassidish, but proud. Geya Yisrael, we should be proud to be Yidden and Lubavitchers and continue in his work. And he made everything so exciting. Every time the Rebbe came out with a new mitzvah, he said, like, there's 630 mitzvahs. What do you mean I'm giving a new one? It's when something is new, it's so exciting. He kept all of our lives constantly very exciting. So, so we'll go back to the wedding. At the 25th wedding anniversary in 1953, the Rebbe said, this is the day that brought me the public service. Heint ist der Tag, was hat mir verbunden, ich zu mir, euch zu mir und mir zu euch. Connected you to me and me to you. And you know that the Rebbe was a direct descendant of Baruch Shalom, the first son of the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe asked Baruch Shalom not to become Rebbe, to allow his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek, to become Rebbe. And he said to him, Dor Revi Yeshuva Henya. Don't worry, the fourth generation, they will become Rebbes. So who was the fourth generation? It was Reb Leivik, our Rebbe's father. However, Reb Leivik, he actually said, I am the fourth generation and it's going to come through my family. So we know already that the Alter Rebbe was preparing our Rebbe to lead us to Mashiach. The Reb Leivik said that the Rebbe Rayat said that a chassan kibno. There's a saying someplace that a chassan, a son-in-law, is like a son. So he said, my son-in-law, the Rebbe I treat him just like my own son. You know how much the Frierdiker Rebbe adored our Rebbe, how much she respected him and how much she put him in charge of so many things. And he valued the Rebbe's opinion all the time. In 1988, Rabbi Pekarsky said that when the Rebbe passed away, he kind of hinted that our Rebbe should become Rebbe. And he said, the Rebbe Rashab actually said, wegen die Mittel darf man trachten von Reb Levik's Kinder. The Rebbe Rashab knew that his son had 3 daughters, and he said the Mittele, Chayamushka, Rebbe Chayamushka, we have to think about Reb Levik's children, but he didn't say which one. However, we know that the Rebbetzin was a year older than the Rebbe, and the Rebbe had never seen the Rebbe Rashab, even though he was 18 years old when the Rebbe Rashab passed away. And the Rebbe said, it's good that the Eibusha didn't let me see him, because then I would be a chassid of 2 Rebbes, and that would be very difficult. This way I became a chassid of my father-in-law. At age 13, Reb Levik said about his son that there is a Gaon Olam. He was already a genius. The Rebbe came to Rostov in 1922, in the winter of 1922, which is like January, February. And at that time, he heard the Rebbe Rayatz say the Maimer Basi Lagani. And people say that he also came there for a shidduch. Then he came back 6 months later in the summer to meet the Rebbetzin for the first time, like an official meeting. The Rebbe was 21, and the Rebbe was 21, and the Rebbetzin was 22 years old. There are many, many responses from the Frierdiker Rebbe that he spoke about our Rebbe. And he spoke about how important it is for his daughter to make sure to be married to this Rebbe. And the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote to his daughter, or he said it or he wrote, one of the two, that I have now spent the last few weeks studying the Torah of Mendel, of our Rebbe. This is the Frierdiker Rebbe. You know, the Rebbe was very big in writing chidushim. I know my son went to yeshiva, and I'm like, "What are you writing?" He says chidushim. I said, "You're writing chidushim Torah? Come on, Ari. Who do you think you are?" He says, "No, the Rebbe said we should write chidushim." So apparently the Rebbe did that on his own. You know, he told us what to do when he did it also. And the Frierdiker Rebbe was studying his Torah. The Rebbe and the Rebbetzin, is really sad, were engaged for 6 years. Some say because there was no money. Some say because the Rebbe Rayatz was waiting for the government, the Russian Yamach Shmonikes, to give permission to his parents to come to the wedding. For whatever reason it is, it turned out to be because of the times in those days, which were very unstable, that they were engaged for a long time. When they finally did get married, it was in Warsaw, and the Rebbe, the Rebbe's, our Rebbe's father, the Reb Levik, asked his wife, Rebbe Tzachana, that she should go and finish up the shidduch, and she stayed in the house of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. That's the Chamadina, Rebbe Chamadina, and the Rebbe, the Rayatz. They stayed for like a few weeks, and she watched Rebbe Tzachai Mushka, and at the end she gave her approval, and she went over to the Rayatz, and she said to him, my husband gave me permission to be his shliach, and I approve of it, but I need to speak to you privately. And she went to another room, and she said, on condition that my son becomes the next Rebbe. Baruch Hashem. Lucky us. And the Rebbe Rayatz said, I approve. And she said, I want it in writing. And the Rebbe Rayatz said, I cannot give you in writing. And the Rebbe Zalman Duchman said, that the Rebbe said, "Ba'uns, a vort is a vort, just a word is accepted as a word. We keep our word." And some other people say that the Rebbe said, "You don't have to worry. The Hasidim will allein verstehen. The Hasidim will figure it out themselves." Wasn't a big deal. It was very easy to figure it out. Okay. Ooh. Now, okay, just want to make sure. Okay, if not the Rebbe, okay. So Reb Zalman Duchman also said, if not for our Rebbe, we would not have Yud Beis Tammuz Farbrengen, because behind the scene, our Rebbe worked very hard on releasing his father-in-law. And when he said this at a Farbrengen, the Rebbe said, it's not the right time to talk about it. So there are a lot of documents, which I don't have in front of me, and he didn't mention them, that tells you exactly what the Rebbe did in order to save the Frierdiker Rebbe. Okay.
Just share that if anybody doesn't yet know about Reb Zalman Duchman, in this month's Chassidus Der Hair, there's a whole section about him. So very important chassid, and they have a lot to say about him.
Yes, yeah, he was really. Listen, the Chassidim of Yer, come on, those old Chassidim, they were something else. Even though Hashem benched me with some grandsons who are marrying my granddaughters who are such Chassidim, like the old Chassidim, I'm like, thank you, Eibishter. Yeah, Zachisi. Okay. When they were supposed to leave Russia, the government only gave him, asked him who he wants to take along. And of course, he said his wife and his 3 daughters and his married son-in-law and his future son-in-law. And they said, you'll always find another one. He said, such a son-in-law you'll never find. And it turns out that he did leave, but not together with the group. For some reason, you know, the communists, Yimach Shmuel, always have to make trouble. But if Hashem wants it, it works out. It says that Rebbe Tzachana, she escorted the Rebbe to leave Russia. And they were on a train, and they had to travel a whole night. And the sun started to shine. The Rebbe put on his talis and his tefillin. There was not a talis yet, just his tefillin. And the Rebbe Tzachana writes that she was petrified. She saw the end. Tefillin? Are you kidding? They put you in prison 10 years in Siberia for wearing a yarmulke under your hat and tzitzis. I mean, so a bunch of goyim stood up and they surrounded the Rebbe until they finished the davening completely. This was on the train going to meet the Rebbe Rayatz. And this was a huge miracle. Okay, the Rebbe left in 1927 to Finland. Why don't I tell you, 1927 was a very difficult year. Oh no, that was 1937. Okay, no. He left to Finland and then to I think to Belgium, and the wedding was postponed until 6 years, so they were finally able to do it. And Reb Leivik writes many letters about the fact that he had to have his son's wedding alone together with his wife and some Hasidim. He writes very beautifully how he danced and how they sang and how they made l'chaims. And he wrote a telegram to the Rebbe, and in the telegram he asked him, he said he has a yarmulke and a gartel from one of the Rabbeim that he wanted to gift him for the wedding, but of course it's sad that he's not going to be able to do it. However, he wants to ask him that he should wear a surtuk, and he should also start wearing a gartel, not only for davening shacharis, but even when he says birchas shachar, the beginning, the brachas in the morning. And the Rebbetzin said that also he told him he should learn Perek Chafei and Tanya, but not Be'iyun. You're getting married, just read it. It's a And then when he finished writing the telegram, it was saturated with tears. Rabbi Tzachana said, it's very heartbreaking when I read about this, that the father couldn't be there. Anyway, then the Reb Leivik asked, please write me everything about your wedding and in detail, and also write what the Rebbe Rayatz said about you, how he introduced you and what he spoke to people about you. And the Rebbe wanting to listen to his father, so he said, as BT nasati leish, I gave my daughter to the man. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu was called an ish. David Melech was called an ish. V'chulu v'chulu. So Reb Leivik writes, what is the v'chulu v'chulu? Right, tell me everything, etc., etc. What do you mean he gave me? He's speaking about you. I want to hear every single word that he said about you. Yeah, some Rebbe, huh? My husband says, I don't know if this is not Givorin. There was one born like a Rebbe, or will ever be born like a Rebbe. The kind of a Rebbe we have. Okay. The Rebbe Tzachana asked the Rebbe to buy his wife, Rebbe Tzachai Mushka, the most beautiful, expensive gift, and to tell her that by uns, you are like a Getraya Tochter, a lovable, delightful, beautiful daughter, and not a daughter-in-law. And I treat you like a daughter. Okay. Also, the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rabbeim would only wear a shtreimel or a spodek, whatever they were those days, in Lubavitch. When the Rebbe Rashab left Lubavitch to go to Rostov, he left the shtreimel in Lubavitch. He never wore it again. That's why we have pictures of the Rebbe Rashab with a hat. And our Rebbe, the Rayatz, he put on the shtreimel to his daughter's wedding. To Rebbe Tzachai Mushka's wedding, you put on the shtreimel. And by that time, his father already had passed away. And he came to him in a dream and he said to him, Yasher Koyach, thank you for putting on the shtreimel.
Was it his shtreimel or?
That's a very good question. He didn't say it, so I don't know. But I don't think it was a shtreimel, it was like a spodek, because shtreimels are around and his was a little bit high. I actually like them, they're very beautiful, but our Rebbe didn't wear them. So guys, you know, you're saving $15,000. You can be happy. It's enough that we have to wait for shetels, you know.
The Rebbe's library upstairs, I think they have
these shtreimel.
Mhm.
Well, a little Lashon Tov is because when the Rebbe became Rebbe, the Hamadina didn't give him the shtreimel. So the Rebbe said, if I cannot have my father-in-law shtreimel, then I won't wear it. And I heard a very cute story that this Satmar came over to the Rebbe and he said, Lubavitch Rebbe, you're such a personality. You're such a great man. You're such a tzaddik. You're such a gadol. If you just put on that shtreimel, you will have thousands and thousands and thousands of Belzers and Geras and Satmars and all these different Hasidim. The Rebbe said, will I have the Israeli from the kibbutznik if I put on a shtreimel? I want him. You go to your Rebbe's. Yes. You go to your Rebbe's. He said, I'm aiming for that person. Yeah. Okay. Rabbi Chaim Oldhouse, who was a very, very smart man and the son of Nikolai Rav. He became the Rebbe Shomer. And this you have to read on your own, but he wrote incredible things, how the Rebbe conducted himself as a chassan. Incredible. It turns out when at the chasana, there were a lot of gedolim. This is before the war. So Poland had so many Rebbes and Rebelach and Litvische, and everybody loved the Rebbe Rashab. They used to go together, you know, in Russia to fight the government and all this thing. So the place was packed, and they had like that. You had to have a ticket to walk in. Otherwise, there was just no room. And not everybody came to everything. Some came to the Kabbalah's Panim, some came to the meal, some came to the dancing, some didn't. Anyway, so some, how they get tickets? They were invited, literal invitations. They were invited.
Like by invite
Only, yeah. And the people who were invited, a lot of the Frierdiker Rebbe, one of them, his name was, I'll think of his name soon if I can't find it, was a very big, like a gadol by the world. Trying to remember his name. So the Frierdiker Rebbe put the chassan. He put him right next to the chassan. I have to find his name. And the Rebbe was sitting there, and this gadol, I need to find his name. Let me see where I wrote it. I should have underlined it. He says to the Frierdiker Rebbe, your son-in-law eret nicht. He doesn't open his mouth. He doesn't say anything. So the Frierdiker Rebbe turned around to our Rebbe, and he said, red. So he was mepalpil, like they spoke in Torah for about an hour. And he walked out and he said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, you took a son-in-law, a goyin oilam.
The Rebbe talked for an hour?
Our Rebbe spoke, while he was sitting, the Kabbalah Panim, he made sure that he sat next to him. So he said to him, he took a gon oilam. Let me see. Oh, his name was Reb Chaim Oizer. Okay, anyway, so then the people actually, the Frierdiker Rebbe actually told him that he shouldn't speak to all the Gdolim, because right now your job is to focus on the wedding for yourself and your Kala. However, for this one, he wanted him to show, at least one person should know, that Edim is a goin oilam. Oh, he said, Lubavitch Rebbe, your had genumen an Edim a goin oilam. You took a Edim who is a huge, huge goin. All right. So I think that's about it for the Rebbe. One more very nice story. So the Rebbe married the Rebbetzin, and Baruch Hashem, we all were very, very lucky because we got the best part of it all. But they were in Paris for a while, and they say one of the reasons that Rebbe had to go to the Sorbonne in Paris is because you had to have certain papers to remain in a city a certain amount of time, and the Rebbetzin didn't have it. So if you go to study, if you become a student, then you could remain there. So of course, the many stories about the Rebbe in the Sorbonne. Rav Hutner went with him, and another from I forgot the other name, rabbis. And anyway, and they would say that the Rebbe would sit with the Gemara, and he would learn. And once in a while, he'd look up at the professor. And one of the tests that he gave, the Rebbe finished like within a half an hour and brought it over to the desk. And the professor took it and he threw it in the garbage. And he said, you're making fun of me. There's nobody who could finish it so fast. He says, well, at least read it. He says, absolutely not. This is like a chutzpah that you have. So the Rebbe went to the dean. He said to him, just tell him to read it, So the dean came in and he took out the papers and he read it and he said, I've never, ever had such a student. He got, of course, an A+. So another thing I heard from somebody is that, the Rebbe would work here in New York. He worked at the dock, the Navy, what's the word before the Navy? Whatever. He worked, they don't know, but he worked on submarines, like a Navy shipyard. Right, thank you. Me, I write everything down or else the batteries sometimes get stale. So it's called a senior moment. Anyway, so they said that with the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Thank you, girls. Very good. So they say that he worked on a lot of secret things that nobody is allowed to know because it was like really very secretive. And when he would travel in the subway, the Rebbe would put on gloves so as not to touch anyone, any woman. Also, another story I'm going to tell you about a Rebbe and our Rebbetzin.
Wait, why did the Rebbe work?
Why did he work? Here, I guess Parnassa. You do have to support your wife. He wasn't the Rebbe yet. The Frierdiker Rebbe was the Rebbe.
And also at the time, Lubavitch didn't have that much money. Like even
Had
if you
no
were-
money.
Exactly.
Had no money at all.
Right.
Zero. The Frierdiker Rebbe literally had no money. I mean, they would collect like pennies, dimes. Who had money? Even when we came in 1953, the Rebbe was here since 1940. That's 13 years. People were so poor. I remember Rabbi Lipsker had a grocery store where Consul Paredes today. When he was Nifter, he said that the book of money that people owe him should be buried with him. It should be a schus for him as shamayim. He would give food for free. I mean, he also had to leave. He had a big family. But we were all immigrants. When nobody, I heard that the Rebbe, one of the, I think it was the Belzer Rebbe, came to the Rebbe and the Rebbe said, I think we should daven that our Hasidim should be rich. He said, oh, no Rebbe, no Rebbe, too much of a nisayon to be rich, So the Rebbe said, there's a nisayon to be poor, there's a nisayon to be rich, better than rich. And then you could do so many good things with money. So when I hear that some Lubavitchers made it well, I know that the Rebbe gave brachas, because a word from a tzaddik, is very powerful. The Rebbe wanted Lubavitchers to be rich so that we can do so much money with so much good with the money. I also read that Rabbi Schechter, the head of the conservative movement, once came into Chidus to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, listen, you guys have a lot of money, and we have the educational rabbis and teachers. Why don't we make a pact? Why don't we share? You help us out with the finances, and we'll provide you with the teachers. He said, I'll think about it. And they say before he passed away, he said the biggest mistake in his life is that he didn't take on the Rebbe. Because in the conservative movement, I don't know if you know it now, but it's really dying. So either they're becoming frum or they're becoming goyim. Nebach, lo Laine. So he said that was his biggest mistake, because in those days, the conservative was like, so the Rebbe always, he was way ahead of everybody. They became frum. I'm going to tell
Yes.
many years later. Yes. Yeah. It's in fact, when I was offered a job, when I came here from Cleveland, I lived in Cleveland for many years. I came from Cleveland and I was a little bit nervous because I was offered a job in a conservative shul, not in the shul, because I let her go to the shul, but in the school, which was a completely different building. And I wrote to the Rebbe, and I wrote I was being offered so much as a payment, and I didn't know what to do. I know we're Lubavitch, but it's still a halacha question. So the Rebbe said that I should teach there if they raise my salary.
Wow.
In 1 second, they raised it $1,000. It was like so much money in those days. That's one thing. And then I found out, this is unbelievable. The chazan in the shul, in this conservative shul, used to be a friend of the Rebbe.
Wow.
His name was Mr. Nelson. Why I remember, I don't know, this is 1965, girls, it's so many years ago. And when he found out I was Lubavitch, he became very friendly, introduced me to his wife. I actually came to his home, and he told me that, I said, you were a friend of the Rebbe's? Have you seen him since? He said, no, I'm too embarrassed because I'm working in a conservative temple. I said, come on, the Rebbe accepts everybody. He said, I can't, I'm too embarrassed. So he said, when I will leave this temple and I will have another job, I will come to the Rebbe, which eventually did come.
Wow.
Baruch Hashem, he left. Anyway, so then I realized why the Rebbe wanted me to be there. I guess he wanted us to befriend this family, which we did. He already passed away, but he told me a lot of stories. He used to drive the Rebbetzin, Chayamushka, the Rebbetzin, the Hamadina, and Chana. He used to drive them and take them. They loved to go to the water. They used to sit and read by the water. There's so many, a lot of very interesting things. They tell me things that nobody knows. Yeah, not to the beach, but to a pond of water, like botanical gardens, But they didn't go here. They used to go to a place in Queens, he said, away from everybody. Nobody should recognize them. Yes. Isn't that nice? Yeah. So the Rebbe had his hand in everything. Okay. And since you're young girls, so Mr. Shem, Karav Mamish will find the right shidduchim. And those who are married, Mr. Shem, Hashem will bench you with healthy, beautiful children. So I thought we'll share a little bit about, since it's wedding day, right? So we'll share a little bit about that. Of course, you could share a lot too. And what could I tell you? The best thing you did is be born to a Jewish family. Or if you, I don't know, you girls really, so if you became Jewish, that's fine, because you're neshama straight from Abraham and Sarah, so that's fine too. But because when you look at the world today, it's so topsy-turvy, it's so warped. it's so upside down. Like sometimes I hear what's going on, and I said to my husband, listen, Davi, if we didn't grow up from, and if we didn't have the Torah to guide us, we would be those people too. Because the world out there is so crazy that people actually, it's like the choshech is so dark that you actually believe that it's snowing now. Like now it's snowing, when of course it isn't. So that's the first thing is Baruch Hashem that you were born Jewish, that you're born from, what you became from, and that you're Lubavitch. This is the biggest bracha. Shreinu matov chalkeinu. We had a young girl who came to our house many years ago. And the first time she ever heard that you have to get married first, before you have children, was in my house. She said that she's like an outcast in college. Everybody looks at her like there's something wrong with her because she doesn't want to do anything. She gets married. She thought after a while, you start to think that something wrong with you. I said, no, actually something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. First time she ever heard of this. We're so fortunate. I know we had people at our Shabbos table, and my daughter then was like, I don't know, she was about 16 years old. And some of the people looked around the room, and there were boys, we had, those days I still had boys at my table. And not from, and they looked at my girls and they said, oh, you guys would have so much fun if you just went to public school. And I remember my 16-year-old daughter looked at them and said, you don't know what it's like to have fun with girls with girls. You don't know what they're missing. So it's like when you grow up and we have the Rebbe and you have Torah and you have so exciting and you have so much on your plate, like some of you don't have enough hours in the day to finish everything you have to do. It gives you a new perspective in life. It's so, one girl once said to me, I used to have girls, now I have Baruch Hashem, my family, but I used to have girls that stayed in my basement. And one of them said to me, Mrs. Laine, can I come watch what you do in the kitchen? I'm like, of course. She says, because I learned about kashrus, but it's a book learning. I really would like to see, it's like a doctor learning from a book and then doing, So she came upstairs, she was like following me around. I'm like, my kitchen is this big, 2 people, so you have to walk sideways. Anyway, so said to me, you don't know how hard it is to finally become from. You don't know how lucky your children are that they grew up like this. It's such a struggle to have finally found Yiddishkeit. I'm like, we're so lucky, especially our kids are going to be so lucky. They finally found it. But make sure that they know it, that they shouldn't think the grass is greener on the other side. That's for another talk. I'll talk about raising children. That's my other talk. But right now, we have to feel this. You can't just say it. You have to feel what you say. We are so fortunate. Can you imagine sending a kid to public school, telling a 5-year-old, no, you're not a boy, you're a girl. You want to be a girl. Cut off this, cut off that, get hormones or this. Sane people you don't have to be frum to know that this is absurd, that this is crazy. Or to tell somebody, okay, we approve drugs. Anybody can have any drugs you want. You know what drugs do to you? It makes you crazy. You can't think straight. Everything, it's push it. You can tell that the world is upside down. You can tell that you need Torah to guide you. I once told a group of girls, I said, well, we'd like freedom. I said, I'll give you a lot of freedom. You should live in the forest. It'll rain on you. You have no boundaries. It'll rain, it'll snow. Maybe it'll come a lion or a tiger or even a wild dog, take a bite of you or two. What's the matter with you? You need a house, you need boundaries, you need sides, you need without that, how could your person survive? Baruch Hashem that you have a Torah that guides you. And you have so much freedom within the guidance. Like, does somebody tell you have to wear a black dress? The Torah says just be tznius. The rest is up to you. Does anybody tell you what you have to eat for breakfast, lunch, or supper? Just make it kosher. Make it delicious. It gives you a day off. Do you know that everything the Torah says, the world finally decides the right thing to do? Who has a day off? The Yid had a day off. Guess what? The whole world decided you need a day off. I remember when I was, when they had the scare, the Tylenol scare, remember that somebody put poison in the Tylenol. So now every medication has a double covering. Like first it's locked and has a plastic over it. And if they tamper with it, they tell you don't use it. In Yiddishkeit, you have to have a double covering before you know something is kosher. You go on the plane, everything is double covered. Everything the Torah says, they're going to find and they're going to say that meat and milk together is harmful. It's going to affect you negatively. It can, who knows what, destroy your kidneys. I don't know what. They're going to come up with it soon. Don't worry.
There's already studies.
I'm telling you.
One's iron and one's calcium, and they shouldn't, when they're eaten together, they counterbalance each other.
There you are. Tell you.
So
The Torah never changes. It doesn't change. There's no such a thing. Everything eventually they'll find that the Torah is right. And we are so lucky. We are so fortunate that we were given the privilege to learn and to guide others. Okay, and now I have like two more minutes. So I'm gonna share a story with you, a Rebbe story. Okay, I have so many. Which one should I share? Hashem Yishmor. Okay, let's see which one. By the way, excuse me?
Do all of them.
8 to 9. I'm very on schedule. Okay, so I'll share a story from my parents. Okay, you have to get the book. I think this is in the book. I hope it's in the book because I finally gave it to Zach Lakowski to finish the book. And he didn't let me read it before he printed it because he said, every time I read it, I correct him. He has to start all over again. So he said, even if there are mistakes, you're getting the book. I said, you're right. I don't want to see it anymore. So I hope I put the story in because it's a great story.
Wait,
So
the book is printed?
Yes, yeah, we had a problem because it was supposed to be printed in China. And because my grandfather, my mother's father, was killed because he was a moyel, so the Chinese government said that the book's writes against communism, so they can't print it. So they held it off. Well, what should I say? Who killed him? The Swedes? He was killed because he was a moyel by the communists. So they held up the book for a few months. So finally, we got it printed in some other place, forgot the name of it. And it's on a boat being shipped to the United States. So it's coming here for Kinnis HaShluchos. Okay. So so my parents
been waiting for this.
yeah, I'm like
What did you call? I have to
the
say-
Queen of Cleveland.
I love
Oh,
it.
that's so cute.
Yes.
I want to say this, Laine. I'm from Cleveland. My name is Rita Cohen, Natasha, and Hershey Cohen are my parents.
You're kidding. Oh, so you know. Okay, you know my mother and father, right?
Yeah.
They-
so it's-
They were really
so
incredible.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to
I'm
tell you.
looking forward to this.
Oh, Mitzvah Shem.
I also worked in Cleveland and
Oh, so you met my parents. Okay, my mother.
How long did this last?
3 years now. Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to tell this story. You'll appreciate that. Okay. So my parents went and teach this to the Rebbe. It was a whole story. It's in the book, and they ended up in Cleveland. In Cleveland, the Rebbe says to my father, "What are you going to do in Cleveland?" He said, "Well, my mother was a business lady. My grandfather was a businessman. I'm going to start business. I'll sell watches. I'll buy. I'll sell." The Rebbe says, "You should be a chazan, a shoichet, or a rav." Okay, there goes the business side of him. And he learned shchita. Rabbi Silver from Cincinnati gave him a very beautiful report. And he was asked to become a chazan in a certain shul called the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. And they liked him so much, they asked him to become the rav. So he's already a shoichet, a chazan. Okay, fine. Anyway, my father goes in, the shul, kosher, 100%, a nice mechitza, everything's good. Comes back a month later, no mechitza. The president of the shul decided that he doesn't want a mechitza. Nebuch, their father's name was Menachem Mendel, was a very frum guy. All his 8 sons, he sent to public school. They all doctors, lawyers, but they didn't know Nebuch. This in the 1800s. So they were all fried. And they decided they don't want a mechitza. My father walks into shul. He's like, "I'm sorry, I can't daven here." They said, "Why not? This is America." So I can't. So he left the shul. My mother comes to the Rebbe. The Rebbe says to her, "So your husband is the Rebbe of the shul?" Oh, she says, "No, not anymore." Why? Because they took up the mechitza. They took up the mechitza. So tell them to put on another mechitza. They don't want. Okay, tell them to put on, he said, not a regular big Lubavitch mechitza, put on a young Gizl mechitza. My mother said, "We tried everything. They're not interested." He says, "But show them pictures. It's not such a big mechitza. It's kosher, b'diavad, it's kosher, you know." My mother said, "Nothing doing. He's not interested. They're totally not from. They're not interested in anything. We tried everything." So in Yechidus, all of a sudden, the Rebbe goes into Dveikas. Like this is the seat, my mother's standing, and the Rebbe puts his head down like this. And my mother's like, should I call Rebbe Groner? Should I call Rebbe? Like, she says, no, he's a Rebbe, he knows what he's doing. Okay? She's just standing there. Rebbe puts his head down, looks up, he says, no. If they will not put up the mechitza, his father, when the Andavel from up in heaven will take care of it.
Oh, wow.
Okay. They go home. My mother tells my father what happened. Father says, okay. He goes to shul. There's no mechitza. That's it. Anyway, like a month later, he gets a knock on the door. The president of the shul comes running in, not Madorsky, but another guy. He comes running in and he says, Rabbi, please come. We want you to become the chazan and we want you to be the rav again. He says, without a mechitza, I can't. He says, show us what kind of mechitza you want, and we're making it exactly to your dimension. So he told him, he had a kosher mechitza, and that the curtains, just like now, kosher 100%. No, kosher Lubavitch, as you please, as you want. Okay, the mechitza is put up. My father doesn't ask any questions. My mother doesn't ask any questions. Okay. Finally, the guy comes over to my father one day and he says, don't you want to know why we did it? He's actually, I'm very curious. But he figured the Rebbe's bracha, He says, well, on the yard side of Menachem Mendel Madorsky, of the grandfather, his son, the one that took up the mechitza, his oldest son, had a dream. And his father came to him in the dream. You heard the story?
No.
He came to him into the dream and he grabbed him by his collar and he started choking him and he said, or you put up a mechitza the proper way, the way the rabbi tells you, or you're coming to visit me right now. He woke up and he was like, oh. He says, oh, this is not just a dream. This is the real thing. And the next day the mechitza was up.
Wow. Can you do one-way story?
Is that a great story? This is mamish. Believe in Ruach HaKodesh. This is Ruach HaKodesh. So if anybody tells anything about the Rebbe, we had such a chiddush with the Rebbe, 100%. I told you my bas mitzvah story. I tell you this story is unbelievable. 1,000,000%. This is the Rebbe story. Okay, we'll do one more. Quick. Another one. Okay. Okay, a Rebbe story. Okay, it doesn't have to be with us. It can be just a Rebbe story. So, the Rebbe was very big in Eretz Yisrael, and he believed that Eretz Yisrael has to be strong. Eretz Yisrael shouldn't give anything back. There was a guy who was like a katzin. What do you call that? Not a general in the army, and he came to the Rebbe to ask the Rebbe, whatever, because everybody told me I should go to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to him, I have a question. Why is it that so many soldiers passed away in Yerushalayim? Why? I mean, didn't you have a strategy or something? He said, I really don't know. Let me find out. And he went back to Israel and he found out that they didn't want to take the Kosel. They didn't want to take it. They knew it was going to cause problems. Of course, it doesn't have to cause their problems. The Israelis caused their own problems. But anyway, and how the Rebbe bothered the Rebbe that an extra soldier was killed because the Freie government over there didn't care to make a plan that they should be able to get Eretz Yisrael, that the Eibishter gave it to them. And one of the things he said, the mistake that we made is not to listen to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, when in 1967 he told us to annex everything immediately. The Rebbe has said that if you don't annex it now, they said, oh, how could we do it? Mayomru Hagoyim, if we send away, if we chase them all out, the Rebbe said, who told you to chase them out? Pay them. An Arab will do anything for money. Go over and pay them for the houses, for this, for that. they said, oh, no, we can't do it. So many were going to leave. And the Rebbe said, if you don't do it now with money, it'll cost you. The Rebbe didn't want to say with lives. He just said it'll cost you more than money. The guy said, the thing that we made a mistake is that the Rebbe knew more about Eretz Yisrael than we knew, because exactly what he said is true. So anyway, I just want to leave you with this. Ashreinu matov chakenu. We are so lucky, and we are so fortunate that I can't say we had, because we still have the Rebbe. Okay, not the physical terms, and we have to daven with Hashem that he should come back. Like somebody said, do you have any idea, who's going to be Mashiach? I'm one of those people who believes that it's up to Hashem, but I don't know anybody else. The only face I know is our Rebbe, you know what I mean? Like Hashem should bring whoever is going to be, but the Rebbe, if you look at these pictures, how gorgeous is he? Tell me. I remember the Rebbe like this. I remember the Rebbe in a black beard. Like when I see the Rebbe in a gray beard, I was a little girl. I was 6 years old when we came to America. It was so gorgeous. I remember we just stood there. Okay, I'll conclude with one more beautiful story about the Rebbe. This is the last one, but it's really a beautiful story. We walk into the Rebbe. My mother had 6 daughters, and the baby boy was born in Cleveland, with 3 born in Russia. I was Russia, 3 born in Paris, and 1 in the United States of America. We walk into Yechidus. The joint, the Jewish distribution, gave my father $18 a week. So my father took $36 and he put it down on the Rebbe's table and he said, it's Maimad Geld. Maimad Geld is money that you give to the Rebbe. People give. So the Rebbe looked at the 6 little girls like this, and he looked at the money and he thanked my father. He was very gracious. He took it and he said, Russian Jews are very generous. Those are the Rebbe's words. But in America, there's a thing called saving. It's good for you to put away money and save. And I said, yeah, I was looking at the daughters and thinking of all the weddings my father would have to make, right? So my father said the first wedding, he had money for it because the Rebbe told him to save. But Baruch Hashem, he had 6 daughters, right? So from one wedding to the next, he was still paying off for the weddings. All his life was paying off for the next few weddings. But how practical was the Rebbe? You know something? Okay, girls, this was a pleasure.
Thank you
so
So nice. Okay. And may the chassan of the Rebbe bench all of her to be kalas b'karav mamish. Okay.
On behalf of all of us, I want to present you as a thank you with.
Oh, I actually
Fridge.
love it.
Yay!
I love it. Shema b'kola. Should I tell my husband?
Yeah.
He always,
bed.
when he reads about Rachel, he says, Baruch Hashem, there's only one Henya. A good one, but one.
Thank you so.
Shema b'kola. Thank you all for listening to my voice.
And now I'm going to invite everyone if you want to come around. Is it okay if we take a picture with you?
For sure. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I'll take that.
Do you have any other names you want to put in? Because I'm going to take it with me.
Oh, yes. If you guys want to send in names, now is a good time to do so.
Yeah. Okay.
You want us to stand?